Blue Jackets need to climb out of this hole that they've put themselves in. Can they do it tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning? Let's discuss on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. So let's talk about tonight's game. I can't decide how this game is going to go because on the one hand, like the Blue Jackets are playing the Tampa Bay Lightning. And on the one hand, the Tampa Bay Lightning are really struggling at the minute. They've only got one win in their first 5 games. They've got 2 overtime losses in that time. So, you know, they beat Boston and then lost in overtime to Washington and then lost last night in overtime to Detroit. Andrei Vasilevsky is struggling right now. I don't know if he's 100% healthy. I feel like I saw reports that he was hurt during preseason, but I might be making that up. But he's 0-2-2 to start the season and has an .886 save percentage. Now, the thing is, he played last night, so chances are the Blue Jackets will play Jonas Johansson, who is 1-0-0 to start the season and has a .909 save percentage. So he's got their only win on the year right now. I feel like the Blue Jackets played Johansson last season and did pretty well against him, but I don't want to say that with any great confidence. I know that the Blue Jackets faced some Tampa Bay backups and did okay, but right now Jonas Johansson is the goalie that's performing better for the Lightning, so it's not great that the Blue Jackets are going to have to face him. It's a real case of, okay, well, we're playing the backup, but the backup's playing better than the starter. So what's going on here? But really, really surprising. Because again, like Tampa Bay, I just assumed, oh, okay, yeah, they're probably going to be near the top of the Atlantic, especially seems like Toronto's taking a little bit of a step back. It seems like Florida is struggling without Tkachuk and Barkov and also a bunch of other guys that are suddenly injured. You know, not surprising things, right? But I guess no, Tampa Bay's like kind of languishing down near the bottom of the Atlantic, bottom of the league, which of course means that it's about time for them to have a get right game, which is, of course. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Tampa Bay Lightning. We're going to talk about the Blue Jackets, who Dean Everson must be listening to this because he seems to have finally listened to my constant pleas to put to put Kent Johnson back in the top 6, which he's done so we'll talk about that as well. And we'll have some predictions fun at the end of the episode as well. So let's talk a little bit more about the Lightning because, again, like they've got some of the usual suspects performing, right? Like Braden Point, 5 points in 5 games. Jake Gensel, 5 points in 5 games. But like Nikita Kucherov, shockingly quiet to start the year, and like he's missed a game. It looks like he's only played 4 games. He's got 2 goals and an assist, so 3 points in those 4 games. Like is nothing to be sneezed at, right? But he's a -8 on the year, despite having those 3 points. Has plus minus is kind of a useless stat. I use it sometimes and always feel really bad when I do so. But like you'd expect a guy like Kucherov to not be on the ice when goals are scored too often, right? And again, 3 points in 4 games is a perfectly fine number of points. But with Kucherov, I personally have kind of come to expect that every other game he's going to have a 2-point game, right? He's going to finish the season with probably 110, 120-ish points. But he's having a slow start to it, which is, again, not ideal for the Lightning. Like I said, Jake Gensel and Braden Point leading the way for the Lightning in the minute. One of those is surprising. One of those is less surprising. I feel like Jake Gensel had kind of a down-ish year for the Lightning last year. Maybe I'm making that up. I mean, he was a point-a-game player, so like not that down. But he had 41 goals. Maybe I'm just making things up. really satisfyingly, he had exactly 20 minutes of average ice time, which I do like. But so yeah, like you expect guys like Point, guys like Gensel to show up, and I'm sure Gensel will. I'm sure Kucherov will show up as well. Victor Hedman also putting up the points, 4 assists in 5 games, playing about as much as Zach Werenski does. So I'm sure that'll be the matchup tonight. It'll be Werenski gets to play against Hedman, and if Everson is smart, he'll play the top line against the top line instead of trying to play the checking line against the top line and getting kind of exposed for it. Which I guess the top line right now is probably going to be Kucherov, Point, and Gensel. Gensel is listed as a center here, but I believe he is playing on the wings. So, tough top line to play against for the Blue Jackets. Again, they're struggling. I do think that that's mostly goaltending based. They're not scoring as much as they usually do. If I go over and just flip over to the little team stats block that I like to use. That power play and penalty kill is great. They're 9th and 10th in the league versus the Blue Jackets. We all know where they are. But they're not scoring as many goals just in general. So it looks like their power play is clicking. Penalty kill is clicking, but their 5-on-5 action is maybe not doing so great right now. They're 20th in the league in goals for per game, scoring an average of 2.8 goals per game. And they're allowing 3.6 goals per game, which is 23rd in the league. So I do think that this is probably a little bit that goaltending is making them suffer right now. Like I said, Andrei Vasilevskiy extremely un-Vasilevskiy-like. 0-2-2 to start the year, 886 save percentage. Like, if I click into him just to see what his stats have been like for the past little while, like, and again, it's early seasons going, right? And I'm sure that will regress out, but like, he's literally never finished the season below a 900 save percentage. He had a 900 save percentage in 23-24, and that was his lowest season save percentage, right? Like, you've got to go all the way back to 2015-16 to get a 910 save percentage, which is his second lowest. So like, this will regress. This is just an early season dip for Vasilevskiy, but it is still kind of jarring to look at him and be like, oh, something's going on here, and it's not great, whatever it is. So again, I don't know whether that's a defensive issue for Vasilevskiy, whether it's that he's, again, coming back from an injury, whether it's just that he is having that kind of, I was going to say that decline, and he can't possibly be declining, because I feel like Andrei Vasilevskiy he's probably older than he looks, but I don't know if he's turned 30 yet. He might be 31, 32. So, like, again, probably of an age where he's going to start declining relatively soon, but not yet is my guess. So my hope is that he does start to climb back up, not in this game, although the Blue Jackets likely won't be facing him in this game, but like, Vasilevskiy, one of the better goalies in the league, and it's extremely unsettling when he's playing below his means. Like, he's playing about average. I flipped it over to Money Puck. So we were supposed to allow 13.4 goals, and he's actually allowed 14. So he's allowing about as many as he should, which does make me think that, okay, this is probably a defensive issue, not a goaltending issue. But again, still kind of unsettling to see Vasilevskiy so far down in the goalie stats. But the good news is, Blue Jackets don't have to face him today. They get to face Jonas Johansson, who, again, is definitely a guy, which of course means that he's probably going to play very well against the Blue Jackets, because the Blue Jackets have forgotten how to score goals, unless these new / old look lines do what I think they will. Yeah, this is extremely out of character for Johansson, who had an 895 last season and an 890 the season before that. In full season. So again, he had one good game. We'll see if he has another good game tonight. I hope not. But there's simply no way of knowing which Blue Jackets are going to show up. And hopefully they got yelled at hard enough after the Colorado game that they will, like, not be awful tonight. But new lines, which is exciting, / old lines, which is also exciting. So we'll talk about what the new look line combinations and pairings look like in just a second here at Locked On Blue Jackets. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's talk about the line pairings, the line combinations, because they're back, / they're new, / Dean Everson, if you are listening to this show, thank you for finally ending my long national nightmare and putting Kent Johnson back in the top 6, and also putting him back with Adam Fantilli. So new line combos. We've gone back to the old favorite of 10, 23, 86. We've got that top line back together, which they never should have been broken up. What were you thinking, Dean? And then the second line is Fantilli with Sillinger and Johnson, which I don't hate as a line at all. You know, it's a kind of, that's the drum I've been banging for the last little while, right? Is put Fantilli and Johnson back together and then pick one of Sillinger or Jenner to go there. And I'm surprised that they picked Sillinger over Jenner, just because I know that Everson likes Jenner with Fantilli, but I guess they also like Sillinger with Fantilli. And I guess maybe the hope is that if they can get another good young line together, like Sillinger is probably longer for this team than Jenner is, right? So if they can get him to kind of play that Jenner role, then that's great news. And then the third line, which I don't hate, again, is Jenner, Coyle, Sillinger. I wouldn't have been mad if Sillinger, Jenner, Coyle, Olivier. I was looking at my I have numbers instead of names, and I misread the number. I wouldn't have been mad if Sillinger had been on this line. Like, I liked Sillinger, Coyle, Olivier as a line as well. And to me, Jenner and Sillinger are kind of interchangeable, for a given value of interchangeable. And then the bottom line is Aston Reese, Lundestrom, and Chinakhov. Now, I, again, would put Chinakhov higher up in the lineup. And I don't know, this doesn't seem like a hot take based on my YouTube comments, but, like, I like Chinakhov in the top 6. I think he is a top 6 player. We don't need to get into the long and short of that, again, because we only have so much time in the day. Dean Everson doesn't like him. Dean Everson doesn't trust him. He's going to put him on the 4th line. He's going to not put him in a position to succeed, which doesn't feel great. Like, surely if you're trying to trade this guy because you don't want him on the team anymore because he doesn't fit with the team, then you want to be, like, showcasing him, right? And putting him on the 4th line and playing him basically negligible minutes. I don't know how many minutes he played in his one game so far, but he played 9 minutes in the game, which was sure, right? 6 minutes less than his average of last season. Like, it really feels like that's not fixable, you know? I would put Chinakhov higher in the lineup. If you don't want to put him on the second line, then flip him and Olivier. Put a little bit more scoring on that third line. Trust Jenner and Coyle to do the heavy lifting in terms of throwing their weight around. Create some space for Chinakhov, and if you can get, like, a third scoring line going, which at this point I would take a second scoring line based on the fact that no one on this team knows how to score right now, but, like, ostensibly you should have your top 2 lines be scoring lines, and then your third line should be kind of a hybrid checking scoring line, right? Right now you've got 2 scoring lines in theory and 2 checking lines, right? If you can move Chinakhov up to that third line and figure that out, then, you know, once the offense clicks, then hey, you've got 3 lines that can score goals, right? Because Jenner's got some goals in him. Coyle's probably got some goals in him. Olivier can go down on that 4th line and do what Olivier does. And everybody's happy. But as it stands, understanding that Chinakhov is not going to be moved off that 4th line unless, you know, he really, really gives Everson a reason to do it. And at this point, I don't know what that reason might be. It might be score a hat trick with your eyes closed and one hand tied behind your back. And even then, I'm not convinced that he would get the benefit of the doubt to move up the lineup. But if I understand that Chinakhov is basically going to be a non-option on this team, like, this is what the top 9 should look like, right? Like, swap Jenner and Sillinger as you wish, but it should be standard top line, and then Fantilli, Johnson, and a guy, and then Olivier, Coyle, whichever guy is not on the second line. Like, I feel fine about these line combinations. Hopefully, they recreate the success of last year. We'll see. The scoring's going to come at some point. Like, it just has to. I refuse to live my life thinking that this team is going to score an average of, like, 1 goal a game for the rest of the season. Like, the goals have to come at some point. The The other interesting thing is that the defense pairings have been shuffled around. And I noticed this. I've noticed this in the last couple of games, actually, and wasn't sure if it was just that Werenski was getting double shifted, or if it was, sometimes at the end of penalty kills or power plays or whatever, the pairings get all juggled around so they can rest guys that were just out there and they kind of just make it work, right? But it looks like Denton Mateychuk has graduated to the top line, or the top pairing at the minute with Zach Werenski, which is a combination that I love. I thought they held their own pretty well. Again, that no one looked good against Colorado, but I liked the combination of Werenski and Mateychuk together. I think that there's something there. It worries me that Fabro is struggling so early in the season. And again, I don't know what's going on there. Whether it's a case of, was last year a flash in the pan? Is it just that the whole team is struggling? Is it just that Zach Werenski has not looked as absolutely dominant and it's making Fabro suffer kind of by comparison? I don't know. But Fabro on the bottom pairing with Christensen is not a pairing that I hate necessarily, but I don't think it's going to get a lot of ice time because Everson doesn't trust Christensen, which seems wild to me. And of course, we must make room for the Provorov-Severson pairing to play 22 minutes and be an absolute nightmare. And again, here's the thing. That pairing has had 2 good games and 2 bad games. I'm not discounting the fact that they might bounce back and, again, have another good game. Because, again, I still maintain that Damon Severson was the best Blue Jacket on the ice in the first game against Nashville. But since then, it seems like he has kind of tumbled back down to kind of where they expect him to be. Unfortunately, they're going to continue to trot that line combination out or that pairing out. Provorov is going to continue to get a ton of minutes on the penalty kill, which is, I have my feelings about that. Ideally, I don't, here's the thing, is if they were actually going to play Christensen and Fabro like a second pairing and give them, actual minutes, probably I would be okay with this. But it doesn't feel great that a guy who obviously had a good season last year and had real kind of synergy with Werenski is struggling this much 4 games into the season. Again, partially it's that everyone is struggling, so I'm not really willing to panic and talking about how it was a terrible contract extension and we've got more dead cap and blah, 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 blah. But Fabro does need to pick his game up. And if the way that they do that is to shelter his minutes, get some confidence back, and then they can put him back up on that top line with Werenski, maybe, then I still think that Fabro is a top 4 defenseman on this team. But I do think it's really interesting that of the line shuffles, Denton Mateychuk is the guy that has jumped up to that top line. Again, Denton Mateychuk is a left defenseman. He's going to be playing on the right side with Werenski, but if you can get Werenski and Mateychuk as a duo together, that's really exciting to me. I know that Everson doesn't like playing defensemen on their offsides, but that might be what I'm the most excited for in this game, is looking at what Werenski and Mateychuk do together, because I do think that there is real potential there. I've liked that duo in the very, very limited time that I've watched them play over the last couple of games, so getting a full game of them until things go wrong and they decide to revert back to regular pairings. But we're being optimistic today. That's not going to happen. The Blue Jackets are going to have a great game. But it's really interesting to me that is what has come out of this. Not breaking up the Provorov-Severson pairing, which I thought was really, really weak the last couple of games. They're keeping those guys together and breaking up Werenski, Fabro, and Christensen Mateychuk. So I don't know what Everson's thinking is there. I guess we'll find out. But excited for Mateychuk, not thrilled for Fabro, right? Sounds like Jet's going to be starting in goal. They're going to keep doing the 1A, 1B thing, which I'm really pleased with. I was going to talk about this yesterday and then forgot. But I do think that potentially the secret to getting this Elvis is that, A, he's not playing every single game. He's getting rested. He's got a spread out schedule. And obviously, again, it's very, very early in the season. They've played 2 games each. So I'm not going to sit here and say that this is a Vezina winning duo, right? But knock, knock. Knock on wood. Knock, knock. But I do think that by this time last season, I feel like Elvis had already lost a couple of games due to fatigue or an injury that he picked up very early in the season. Seems like he's healthy. Seems like he's feeling good. And I think that like having a legitimate competition for his role for the first time in a while has probably lit a bit of a fire under him. Like as much as I like Tarasov, and he showed flashes of potentially being the guy, he didn't play well enough in Columbus really to put the fear into Elvis that you're going to lose your job, right? And I think Jet Greaves coming along, playing so well to end last season and to start this season, I do think that Elvis is really like, well, not that he was phoning it in at points last season, but I do think that there's a kind of pressure there when you are scared about you losing your job that really kind of propels you to hit new heights. And again, I don't think that this is going to last. The Blue Jackets having a combined like 9.26, I think, on average. Elvis has a 9.20, Greaves has a 9.32. Like what to put that together, like on average, I think that's like a 9.26 if I'm doing my math, despite the fact that NHL.com is giving us a 9.12, which seems wrong and unfair. I assume that that's including the empty net goals. Anyway, the goaltending will regress back to average probably at some point, but until then, I'm going to enjoy it and see what Jet Greaves does. Hopefully, they can get Jet Greaves a win because the kid deserves one. Both goalies have played well, but for Jet Greaves to have a 932 save percentage and be 0-2 to start the year feels really, really unfair on the kid, right? So hopefully they can figure out some goals. Hopefully they can figure out some run support for their goalies outside of like the one game where I am worried that they used all of their goals up in one game. But Tampa's struggling right now to keep the puck out of the net. So if there was ever an opportunity to get do a get right game, it might be this one, right? I do think that this is probably going to be a high scoring affair today. In terms of my predictions, I'm gonna go. I think it's probably. Here's the thing: I hate games that are like this. I do think it's going to be one of those like 6-5 overtime games. I'm going to bet the Blue Jackets to win. So a 6-5 overtime win for the Blue Jackets because you know my rules. I always pick the Blue Jackets because it feels bad to pick against them and it's my podcast, so I make the rules. In terms of goal scorer, I'm going to go with Fantilli. Even though I picked him, I think I picked him yesterday. I'm going to pick him again because he's got his liney back. He's got Ken Johnson back, and that feels like good news to me. I was going to pick Ken Johnson, but I've got a feeling. I've just got a feeling about. I've got a Fantilli feeling. A Fantilliing. No, that's nothing. So Fantilli goal, 6-5 overtime win for the Blue Jackets. Get your predictions in down below. Everydayers know the rules by now, but if you are not an everydayer, welcome. What we are doing is holding a little competition this season where I have been taking listeners' predictions for anytime goal scorer and final score. You get a point for each. If you get both right, you get a bonus point. And if you predict correctly an overtime or shootout win or loss, then you get a bonus point on top of that. End of the season, whoever has the most points gets a prize, and whoever beats me in the standings will get a smaller prize as well. So get your predictions down below. I've been having a ton of fun with this. Probably in Monday's episode, what we'll do is I'll go through. We'll have gone through 5 games, so I'll do a little leaderboard. Who's leading the way? Who's winning at the minute? I think I'll probably do top 3 or top 5. I'm not sure. But if you want to have a chance of appearing on the leaderboard, get your predictions in. So no one has been doing very well yet. But I'm putting that entirely on the fact that the Blue Jackets are being stupid and not scoring goals at all than on us being bad at predicting. That's my coping, and I stand by it. So my guess, 6-5 overtime win, Fantilli goal. Get yours down below, or you can at me on Twitter. Either or, I collect them both. Thank you for listening, for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Blue Sky at JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show over on Twitter at LO_Blue Jackets. We are on Instagram. We are on TikTok. We are on all kinds of places that I don't pretend to understand. So, if you find me there, drop a follow. Thank you once again for listening. We'll be back on Monday. We'll break down tonight's game, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know the drill. But until then, make sure you stay locked on.